You're listening to the PPL Podcast. Now for your host, Darren Perky.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the PPL Podcast, episode number 8. And in this quick little podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about vetting partners, right? So one of the questions that we got from the question area was from Doug. And Doug says, how do you vet partners? 3 times I've had inbounds for PPL. I start generating them calls. They're booking appointments off my calls. And when it comes time to billing, they go MIA, say the leads are shit. I'm out, maybe $1,000 for the initial build. Have some reputable firms and just completely start ghosting me and not call me back, etc. So let's get into this today. So I kind of think that there's 2 ways to do this. The first part is twofold. In the home services space, I generally tend to work with 2 types of people. Companies that have more than 1 truck, preferably more than 3, but at least more than 1 truck. Because my whole thought is there's going to come a day when their truck breaks down or something doesn't come in on time or something. And they're going to have to decide who to pay. It's either going to be you or the paying for their truck that gets them money. It's going to be their truck. It's never going to be you. So you're going to lose out on that money. The other person I like to work with is someone who outsources to other vendors. So someone who maybe is a one-man shop, but they basically don't do the work themselves. They're like a lead provider for a lead provider. That's kind of how I look at it. Those are good to work with too. They tend to get it. They understand arbitrage, and that's usually how it works. So those two are fine. So in the prospecting process, there is some of the, there's some of that criteria to look at. You can see, do they answer their calls on a regular basis for regular phone numbers? Do they, how do they answer the calls? Are they good at answering the phones? Do they have an intake department? There's things like that I worry about when trying to find a partner. Now, obviously, I'm not really in the home services space per se, but I do think that there is something to be said for that. So, making sure that. Also, I think it makes a lot of sense to have them prepay for the first 10 leads. I really do think that. I know a lot of people say, I'm getting $100 per lead. It's $1,000 to get started. And it allows you to do something we call a WOW service, which we won't get into much of these videos, but they have something called the WOW service that allows basically some time there to build rapport after the sale is made. So we had one student back in the day, this is maybe a year ago, that was generating a lot of leads, and he was prepaying the first 10 leads. But his leads were like 3. I think his leads were $30. It was for a very low end niche, but volume was there. And I think he was getting $30 per lead, and he was billing, I think, the first 10, so it was like $300. But he was producing those leads in like 3 or 4 days. So within the first week of working with them, they basically prepaid. They had to pay again. They had another bill that was due, and you just can't do that, right? You can't bill that quickly. So what we do with the first 10 leads is we stagger those first 10 leads that they prepay over the first 2 weeks. So though we can get more leads for them, obviously we run AdWords for the most part, we can do more. We don't, because it allows us to invoice them, what's called a mock invoice. So we can go over that invoice. It's not really, it's a real invoice, but it's already been prepaid. So we just deduct, let's just say an example, they prepay for 10 leads, and we've given them 5 leads over the first week. Let's just say that's the number. So what we would do is we would invoice them for the 5 leads, but then show that it's been paid. And then we would walk them through the invoicing process of what that looks like. So we send them the invoice and say, hey, just want to go over this for you. This is already paid. You've already paid for this. I just want to show you how this works. And so they can see the call recordings. They can see how that turned into a job. And you can kind of talk about there. And then if they have any issues with those first couple of leads, you can address them but you already have the money, so it doesn't really matter, right? So they address those issues and say, hey, listen, I want things to be more quality, whatever it is, and you can discuss why it's quality or why it's not quality, that sort of thing. So you can kind of go through that whole process there of what those leads are. So it's a really good strategy. The other way too is just to kind of don't try to sell someone on the first call. Like we generally do 4, 5, 6 in the legal space. It's 8 to 10 calls before we close someone. Finally, it's just they're busier, they do a lot of different things, so takes a while to close someone. Generally, if someone's like right away, yes, let's work together, that always scares me. It always brings up my radar, and I want to pause and make sure that it's good, because for the most part, most business owners don't do that, right? Most business owners don't buy stuff right away. They kind of like look at stuff and kind of see where things are going first. But our WOW service kind of gives you that process, right? So like basically what WOW service is in a nutshell is the first 90 days that you work with a partner or a client, whatever you want to call them. What are you doing? Like what's day one? Day zero is the first day. So what does that look like? Day 1, day 3, day 7. There's always something happening, so they understand who you are as a company and what's going on. And so also too, I never try to expend. And generally, if you're let's just say you're getting $50 per lead, which obviously get more, but if you're getting $50 per lead, you really in theory should be paying less than 25 or so to get that lead in. So in theory, you should be making money on this first transaction. That's the goal, right? Or at least break even, worst case. So, meaning that the first 10 lead, I'll go back to the example of $100 per lead. If they prepay $100 per lead, you should be generating those leads for around 50 or less. Hopefully, that's the whole goal. All in. So then, you're really paying out 500 and you're making 500, but you're using that 500 to kind of go through the WOW service, which is like includes like gift card, with a thank you note, maybe a gift basket. There's a couple things in there that we kind of do just to kind of build rapport and that we're a legit company. So there is some things that built in there that cost money. Obviously, you're going to have a sales guy too, so your sales guy is going to need to get paid if you have that system in place. But obviously, if it's you right now, it can be you. But I tend to always in the home services space, I would have them prepay. You don't really have a partner until they pay you something. In the legal space, I worry about it a lot less because they understand that that industry in the legal space is pretty used to buying leads or buying services for a premium. So it's not too difficult to kind of work out. So they kind of always know to pay. It's not really a big of a deal. And mine are generally better quality than what they're used to paying for. Though I am more expensive, I'm obviously better quality. So that's usually not an issue. In places where they don't understand the value or the idea of investing in marketing, I would have them prepay some. And you just need to make it very clear. You're only prepaying the first time. Everything after this is in arrears, meaning that it's after the fact. So after that first run, you're getting leads for $50. You're charging $100, whatever the number needs to be. And the second time they go around, if they don't pay the second time, everything you've done in the WOW service should. And WOW stands for week over week. I'm not sure if I ever mentioned that before. But the process that you have in place there on the onboarding should eliminate that issue. If it doesn't, there's something lacking there, either in trust, quality, or understanding, and so you need to address those issues. Because if you're bringing in business if you're bringing in real business, potential partners that are actually willing to pay them, customers to them, they're going to want to keep you. So either they don't know how to close, which could very well be an issue, right? They might not know how to close deals. So if someone calls up, and I told this example before about the fence guy who I called, and they're like, well, that's going to be very expensive. Like, that's not how you close a deal, right? So as your example in the plumbing space, if I say, hey, listen, I got some water coming underneath my sink, I'm not sure how to fix it. They say, well, I can't come out until next Thursday, and it's Monday. That's going to be a problem, right? So there's certain ways to handle certain things. So you can kind of figure that out. But you have the call recordings. You should be tracking your call recordings, and you should be recording calls. So if that's the case, you can go through those calls with them and kind of talk them through it. And sometimes you're going to get a crappy partner. That's just part of the business. You can't be 100% perfect every time. You're going to get shitty partners. That's going to happen. That's just part of the process. So just know that. Just know that going into it. You're going to have one or two every now and then that are just bad. That's okay, right? That's part of the process. You should. If you're having them prepay for loan, and listen, I know a lot of you guys are going to want to start with 5 leads because you feel troubled asking for money. I was that way when I first started. I hated asking people for money, even invoices. I would wait, a couple weeks to invoice them. But I invoice weekly, so if you're running campaigns and stuff, you should always bill weekly. Always, always, always bill weekly, just like a regular payroll. Don't wait for the month. That's crazy, especially in the beginning. Now, if you go 3 or 4 months and everything's working out really well, and they want to do a monthly billing, like a lot of law firms do it once a month with me, right? I don't recommend that for anybody. I don't recommend going once a month, but if it's every 2 weeks, whatever, fine. Obviously, I'm at a level where once a month for these large companies who have, they're paying $30,000 a month for marketing, they gotta have 2 people sign off on the check, and there's they have an entire accounts payable department with 4 girls in there or 4 people in there of course, that's going to be something that they do. That's totally fine, right? No big deal. But for the most part, these home services companies are not going to have that. They're going to, bill them weekly. Don't allow any kind of thing. This is why I like Paid so much, right? Because if they don't pay me that first week, or that whatever week it is, I just turn the ads off, right? It's okay. Get another partner. I mean, you're losing a little bit, obviously, but the idea is that you're making enough margin on all your leads. That's not really an issue. You should always be making money on these steps. Obviously, the first couple of months, the first couple of partners are going to be, quote unquote, at a loss, but it gives you experience, and I'm always willing to pay for experience, right? It's totally fine. So you just have to figure out that happy medium and kind of go from there and see what's working, what's not working, and kind of build a business from there. But yeah, I would totally recommend getting prepaid those leads, and use the WOW service, the onboarding process. Use that to kind of build a rapport to keep them on board longer. So I hope that helps, guys, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for checking out the PPL podcast. I will see you guys on the next episode.